Hello, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to News Talk with yours truly, Chris Anu, coming to you as usual from the great state of Texas, Houston, Texas, to be precise. I'd like to welcome all of you tuning in from across the globe, in Africa, in the Middle East, in the Far East and Near East, whoever divided the East, and of course, the continent, United States of America. Thank you for tuning in. I look forward to a very, very exciting show tonight that has to do with developments emerging from La République du Cameroon, talking about the fight, the battle for who succeeds, Paul Biya. So please stay tuned. This is going to be very, very exciting, and I'm going to be back in a second. Stay put.
The workplace is changing faster than ever before.
Whether you work in healthcare, education, law, content creation, insurance, real estate, human resources, accounting, or nursing, AI is becoming part of your everyday job.
The question isn't whether AI is coming. It's whether you'll be ready. At Certified AI Academy, we teach practical AI skills through live, interactive classes led by experienced instructors. Learn the tools employers are already using today. Invest in yourself. Learn AI now, or someone who already has learned will be used to replace you. Certified AI Academy is now enrolling for our July session. Seating is limited and available on a first-come, first-served basis. Call or text 346-271-0711 today and secure your future. Grab your opportunity now.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, once more, thank you for tuning in, and look forward to having a very exciting show with you tonight. We are going to focus on developments in Cameroon that have to do with the botched envelope coup, the botched envelope coup in Yaoundé that was supposed to announce the appointment of a new vice president or a vice president. Paul Biya has been in France. Today makes it exactly a month when he left Cameroon. And 7 days, merely 7 days, a week after, that is precisely June 12th, a letter was delivered to CRTV General Manager Charles Ngoh, and the letter contained instructions to carry out an announcement indicating that one Oswald Baboke has been appointed by presidential decree by a man in Europe to become vice president of the country. That is where we are going to dwell most tonight. But before I get there, I am being joined by barrister Ngoh. If I get the name, the listing wrong, please correct me. I am being joined by barrister Ngoh, who is based in Douala and runs a law chambers in Douala, and he represents lots of Amazonian political prisoners, including Abdul Karim Ali, who was sentenced for life imprisonment in Yaounde. I invited him today to shed light on what is going on with the fate of some of those political prisoners, especially those that he is directly looking after. And he has also written a book that he is going to tell us about, and I think that book has to do with conditions of bail in today's Cameroon. Before I bring him in, I'd like you to listen to this commentary from him in a show on Equinox Television. I think this was last week. Listen, please.
About the case of your client, Muslim scholar and human rights activist, Abdul Karim. What is his situation? The case was in court recently on the 17th of June, 2026, and was adjourned to the 19th of August, 2026.
Yes. Yeah, it's true. I'll not get into the facts of the case because I'm not allowed to do that. But yes, when the case came on, and I'm the lone lawyer for Abdul Karim, and we have a good case. We'll work in court and get the best. For now, what I can tell you is that Abdul Karim is no longer under a life sentence, because once an opposition to a judgment that was rendered in default is done, the previous judgment cease to exist. So we are very optimistic. We are calling on the magistrates to use their consciences, as the law says, the law and their consciences, and to avoid interference, because the law says that they are independent. So that is it, and I'm very optimistic that the case is one of an ideology and not one of violence. He's not a violent person. He has an ideology, and the law permits us that we have freedom of expression. If I think that
freedom of thought,
freedom of opinion and expression. So if the law says that if I'm a Southern Cameroonian and I say I'm a Southern Cameroonian, I should not be sanctioned because I'm a Southern Cameroonian and I defend those values. So in summary, that's what I will say. And I'm happy that my client is in a very good state of mind, very determined, and I'm happy that many people are supporting him in this fight. And I call on everybody to always come up and say something good to encourage Abdul, who is not fighting for himself, but is fighting the cause for the Southern Cameroonians. There is a difference between being a secessionist and fighting for Southern Cameroons.
Even though as of now we have Northwest and Southwest.
Yes,
and not Southern Cameroons.
Yes,
that was formerly Southern.
That is a history. You cannot wipe the You cannot wipe the history. You cannot wipe history. Cameroon used to be spelled with K, correct? There are documents showing that Cameroon was K. And so if those documents exist, you cannot say Cameroon has never been a country with K.
And those two regions were formerly Southern.
Yes.
All right. Now we are looking forward to the law being said or done.
Yes.
And seen to have been done. As lawyers
who
put it. All right. Let's take some interviews now. We'll be right back in a moment.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Again, that was barrister in welcome over Equinox Television answering questions to, in respect to political prisoners, especially Abdul Karim Ali, who has been in Condé for I think about 4 years now, if I'm correct. But Barrister, welcome. It's a pleasure to have you on ABS for the very first time, sir. Thank you for joining me.
It's a pleasure talking to you, and it's always edifying when invited to talk about things happening back in the country for the purpose of having a better Cameroon for all of us. Start by correcting my name. I know it's difficult, but it is Kamwa.
Kamwa, yes, right.
Yes, Kamwa.
I'm very sorry, I tried to read it several times.
Yes,
Kamwa,
yes.
correct. All right.
I am sure subsequently you'll be more familiar.
I will get
with
used to it. Yes, I will get used to it. So let's talk about Abdul Karim Ali. If I heard you right there, you said he is no longer under life imprisonment. When did that change?
Yes, correct. Yeah, before I got into the file, there was an existing judgment that was rendered in absentia, wherein he was condemned for life. But the law provides that any judgment that was rendered in absentia, you can set aside that judgment by doing an opposition. So once you do an opposition, that judgment falls. It is set aside. So the matter is heard afresh. So his legal status.
But you certainly understand what country you are dealing with and the nature of the people, the legal system you are dealing with. That appears to be your opinion. The court hasn't officially said, or the court that made the ruling hasn't officially said, Abdul Karim, we are going to retry you, forget about the first trial. They have not said that, isn't it?
No, it is not the court. What I'm talking is not my opinion. I am talking of the law. I'm talking of the law. I'm not talking about my opinion. My opinion is irrelevant as far as the law is concerned. I am telling you that the law provides that once a judgment, first of all, you look at the judgment. If a judgment is rendered in absentia, it is written on that judgment that this judgment was rendered in default. And the remedy is either you set aside that judgment by opposing because you were not party during the trial. The law provides that you can set aside by doing an opposition or you do an appeal. So in this case, we went in for an opposition. It is not a matter for the courts to decide whether I should go on opposition. The law so provides, the Criminal Procedure Code so provides. And it is once the matter is heard again in court, it goes without saying that that judgment has been set aside. If the court had refused to entertain the matter, then we'll say that the court has rejected. But for now, the matter is in court, and the legal status as defined by the law is that that judgment has been set aside. We are in the same court. And so the argument that was raised by the legal department is that there was an appeal done on that matter, and it gives the impression that to them, my client Abdul Karim is aware of the judgment, but that's not the case. The law doesn't say that. Abdul Karim is in prison, and the appeal, he could not have gone to the court of appeal to file an appeal. And then the law says that the legal department or any interested party must present a bailiff report attesting that that judgment was served on the party, that served on my client. That document does not exist. It was never served. And so if he has never served, it goes legally that judgment can be set aside. And that is why I went in to set aside the judgment. It is a law. It's not my opinion, Mr. Chris.
So are you saying that before he was sentenced to life imprisonment, he was never served to appear in court?
I am saying that the court in its judgment said the judgment was rendered in absentia, meaning that in the records of the court, he was not present in court. And once you are an accused person, even if a lawyer enters appearance in your case and you are not in court, it is deemed that you are not in court, because a lawyer does not substitute you in a criminal matter. On the contrary, if you were the complainant, it will be adduced that you were represented, the civil party, because your presence is actually not necessary because it's a prosecution that has the file. But for an accused person, he must be present in court to defend himself. And so I'm not talking about what happened and what I'm talking about. The judgment itself. The judgment states in itself that it was rendered in absentia, meaning that he was not present in court. And when you are not present in court, you have two options: either to come back and be reheard on those charges, or you file an appeal. It will make no sense to file an appeal when you could be heard. So that's why we came in through opposition, and that judgment, by virtue of the law, has been set aside. That's why we are back in the same court.
So, any idea when the hearing comes up?
Yeah, of course, it was supposed to come up this month, but I had cases out of the country. So I adjourned it for 19th of August. So you'll be coming back, you'll be coming on the 19th of August. And then I'll be back in Cameroon for the matter.
So in his previous arraignment, Abdul Karim had made the case that he would not appear before a judge in Yaoundé, because Yaoundé or La République du Cameroon doesn't have jurisdiction over him. What would be the argument this time for him to appear in this court?
You know, the difference in my approach is that you don't raise the competence of the court outside the court.
Okay.
You understand? You raise those issues in the court. You look at the judge and tell them that you don't have competence to hear me. You see, when you sit somewhere and say you don't have competence to hear me, the court has not heard. The court, you speak inside the court to challenge the actions of the court. And so that is the approach. Yes, you don't. So, and that is the approach I told my client. We go to the court, and then we look at those charges and we tell them if they are competent or they are not competent. You see, we don't stay behind and say that you are not competent. How would they hear you? Because if you raise the issue of competence, it means that you can bring an appeal if the court rules that they are competent. But if you stay and you don't come to court, you forfeit all the rights of presenting the facts, which is detrimental to you.
So, besides Abdul Karim's case, are you handling the case of other political prisoners, particularly Ambazonian prisoners? We know there are thousands of them all over the country.
Well, I want to make a fine line. I want to make a fine line between the case I have, Abdul Karim's case, and Ambazonian case. Abdul Karim, as far as I know, as his lawyer, is working to protect Southern Cameroons. As far as I know from the facts and what I've discussed with my clients. Now, I don't select people to defend in court. Anybody who constitutes me to defend them in court, I will defend them in court. I don't go in to say this person is an Ambazonian, I'm defending Ambazonian. No, until when I am briefed in a matter and I see that there is a case that I can defend you, then I accept that I can defend you. But if your question is, have you been defending Anglophones whose right to liberty have been tampered with? The answer is yes, I've been doing that.
No, that wasn't the question. The question was, apart from Abdul Karim, are you handling other Ambazonians, or you call them Anglophone cases, based on their involvement in the Ambazonian conflict?
I don't want to use the word Ambazonian because I don't have any case in that I'm defending somebody based on Ambazonian crisis. I am defending people whose liberty has been infringed, and whoever is a victim of illegal arrest or illegal imprisonment and constitute me as a lawyer, I'll defend. And I must not take a case for everybody, because there are certain cases that will not be that do not fall within my ideology, within my perception of what the Anglophone crisis is all about.
I see. So you are not taking up Abdul Karim's case on the basis of his engagement in the Ambazonian struggle?
I don't think that from the discussions I have with my client that his arguments are based on Ambazonian. Abdul Karim, his arguments are based on Southern Cameroons. Which
yeah, I mean, there's no difference. We are talking of the
there is a difference. There is a difference. Southern Cameroon has existed as a state, has existed as a legal entity. There were Southern Cameroons before.
We agree with that.
Beg your pardon?
We agree with that.
Good. So, Southern Cameroon have always decried the fact that there was poor governance, there was kind of discrimination, and many other ills, social ills. And so, Ambazonian, the way I perceive, the way I look at it, are those who decided to pick up arms against the state. You understand? And
did you say they decided to take up arms against the state?
Well, they picked up. I don't know whether they decided or they did not decide, but they are in conflict. The state and the separatists are in a warfare. I agree with you that the warfare was started by the state. I don't refuse the fact. I've always said that everywhere, that the state, the use of force, and I've made it very clear that before the advent of the war, Southern Cameroon has been in existence. Ambazonian, the spirit of Ambazonian has always existed, but it never went violent because the state did not react the way they reacted. I've always blamed the state for doing that. But that said, my line of thinking is I am a federalist. I'm a federalist. I don't subscribe. You know, Mr. Chris, you're aware of the fact that there are three main factions of, if you want to go, three main factions of Anglophones. Anglophones are divided into three major factions. You have those who think that the status quo is okay now, that is decentralization or whatever, and those who think that this decentralization is a carbon copy of centralization, and want federalism where Anglophones, Southern Cameroons, will be autonomous as they were before, and then you have those who outrightly want a divided country called Ambazonian Republic. I subscribe to federalism.
Well, of course, I agree with you. There are many different school of thoughts out there. Some people think federalism is the way to go. They argue for it. They defend it. However, there are many of us out here and right there back in Ambazonia who argue that the time that we argue and fought for federalism is over. We fought for it since the day we got independence, and federalism never worked. It was taken, it was given away, and a lot of people have said every time we raise federalism that we are Biafrans, we are foreigners, we are secessionists. That is the way they understand federalism. And if we are defending a free and independent Southern Cameroons today, it is because we see no headway in arguing or talking about the federation, that Yaoundé is not ready to cooperate. If they don't give it to you, you take it. And that is what we are doing. I don't know why this doesn't make sense.
I respect your opinion. I respect your perception of things, and just respect mine. I think that logically, we've been in a federalism. Cameroon has been a federated state before, and I see possibility of going back into federalism than seceding from Cameroon. It's been 10 years. How far have we gone with the Ambazonian Republic, Mr. Chris? Mr. Chris, you agree with me that there has been a lot of bloodshed. There have been a lot of sufferings, looting, kidnapping. As a matter of fact, Anglophones have been the victims in the Ambazonian conflict, in the fight to have a republic. So to me, as I said, I respect your line of thoughts, but me, I am for federalism, and I've always said this all through. Now, when the Ambazonian crisis started, I remember Mimefo was a journalist. I went there and I said it that I see this movement failing because we are not respecting the international humanitarian law. We are not respecting the law of war. What is it? The Geneva Convention and its 4 protocols makes it very clearly that if you want to liberate, create a country, a freedom fighter, wear uniforms, identify yourself as a militia, do open warfare, avoid killing civilians, their properties. There are indeed so many. There are some other institutions that you avoid: hospitals, schools, all those things. And you see in this war, both the La République and Ambazonian have engaged in the violation of that war, and truly believe me,
I don't understand your argument. You try to indict Ambazonia or Southern Cameroonians for defending themselves. At the same time, you now want us to believe both Cameroonian or the Cameroon government and Ambazonia. Don't you understand? This is war, sir. When there is war, there is collateral damage. And I agree with you that civilians should not be the victims. And I have hammered that point here again and again and again, because this war is not against our people. It is against the regime in Yaoundé that declared war on our people. And so there are certain no-go areas, and the leaders of the movement have educated the fighters again and again and again. I think I have been one of the relentless persons who have come here and indict Some of those fighters, especially when you see them arresting people and shooting them on public square, firing squad style, I condemn it. They go picking up people's taxis and burning them in the name of changing some colors. I condemn those. I condemn the abduction and ransom taking that we have seen. However, let's realize that a lot of people in Cameroon is causing more damage than these boys who are out there defending their families in their villages. You look at the killings in Kumba. You look at the burning of Azi in the BLM that was carefully captured by the BBC. You look at the massacre in Ngarebo. You look at the massacre in Bali, and you can name the rest. These, you are agreeing with me, not done by Amazonian fighters. They were carried out by French Cameroon forces.
Mr. Chris, I have been very, very objective in all my analysis. If you look at every outing I've come out, the Cameroon government has failed. I don't refuse. They created the sin. They created the problems that we are facing today. I don't refuse. But then I'll ask you a question. Yes, I'm happy that you've realized that some boys are burning, looting, do all those things. Have they taken your instructions? Because up till today, they are still looting, they are still kidnapping, they are still killing. You understand? What I'm saying in essence is, Mr. Chris, is that, Mr. Chris, there is a law governing warfare. There is a law.
And why is the government in Yaoundé not respecting that law? Then you expect people who are defending themselves to respect those laws.
Does two wrongs make a right, Mr. Chris?
Where? When a greater person is the one perpetuating the criminalities, you expect a lesser person to defend himself.
Look, defending, I've said, Mr. Chris, that there is a way to defend yourself. That way of defending yourself should be for the interest of Anglophones within the confines of the law governing war. That's what I'm saying. Right to self-determination is a fundamental human right. Nobody disputes that. But how we come to it is a problem. Because I'll be very honest to tell you, Mr. Chris, that when Ambazonian crisis started, Anglophones believed that it was a just cause. It was a cause that ought to succeed. But believe me, my dear brother, I don't know if it's still the Ambazonia or some other group of factions of people, they turn this thing into something else.
I am, to say the least.
Do you know that since this war started, I've not set my legs in Bamenda because I am afraid of both sides. I'm afraid of both sides. Same, I will not go to Kumba. So, Mr. Chris, look, it is never late, it is never too late. We can achieve what we want to achieve, but with maybe another methods. For 10 years,
let me say this, because it just appears to me that you are not in terms with the realities of war, especially war in a country like Cameroon, a country that doesn't respect its own laws. When this war started and up to today, some of those forces still exist. Paul Atanganji was sponsoring fighters in Bamenda. The guy they call Ngala Jared was sponsoring fighters up in Kambe. And what those fighters did was they will go out, pick up people, torture them, take ransoms from them, and then the message that is sent out to the media and the social media will be Ambazonian fighters. See what they did. See what they carried out. And so on and so forth. Again, that is not to say that there were no legitimate Ambazonian fighters who kind of indulge in same practices. But we know for sure from our own findings that most of those kidnappings and ransom takings were being done by boys sponsored by Paul Atanganji and given gun. Not only Paul Atanganji's boys. I will give you a clear example of you find opportunists coming into the midst of war and trying to get rich as quickly as they could. I had a case in Nkwen that was about probably 3 years ago where One man was abducted, and the family, they happened to know me. They had my number, and they called me, hoping that if I should talk to some of those fighters involved in the kidnapping, that the man will be released without any money taken from him. And so I asked them, can I have their number? They gave me the number, and the number happened to be the number of the victim. They were making phone calls using the number of the victim. And so they gave me the number, and I called, and I said, hey, comrades, how are you, sir? They asked, who are you? And I said, I am Chris Anu. They said, you know what they asked me? They said, you be Chris Witty. You be Chris Witty. That was what they asked me. Now, come to find out a few months later, those boys were crooks, roving around the city, picking up people and taking up ransom from them. And this particular man, they took 10 million CFA from him. This man had just retired and was paid his retirement. How they knew it, nobody understands, but they kidnapped him and they paid him the money. But a few months later, the legitimate fighters wrapped up these guys. And guess what they were having as guns on them? Wood, plank, carefully carved in the form of a rifle. With the top of it, the bullet channel made of umbrella iron. You know the iron they use for umbrella. They tie it on the wood, wrap it to look like a real gun, and they were using it fake guns, going around intimidating people, abducting them, taking money from them. So it turned out these guys are not even Amazonian fighters. They are just opportunists taking advantage of the situation to enrich themselves. So what the point I'm trying to say here is, these are the situations that you find in a war like our own. So the idea that Amazonian fighters are this, are that, again, some are like that. But I can assure you, the overwhelming majority of those who have abducted and taken ransom from people, they are not Amazonian fighters. They are rooks, and some of them sponsored by the state, so that they can get Amazonian people, Southern Cameroon, Anglophones, as you call it, to get fatigue as we have in some today. I really honestly think the majority, overwhelming majority of Southern Cameroonians, Amazonians still stand and support this struggle. War, nobody wants war. It comes to a moment you hope you did not go into it. But you go a certain distance, you ask yourself, where are we? Where do we want to return to? That is the problem. So I agree with you about the unforeseen characteristics of the war. But La République du Cameroon has caused these things, and if we are talking about law, you are a lawyer. You should be suing La République du Cameroon for some of the criminal things that you have mentioned here caused by the state. They are well documented, sir.
Yes, you know, Mr. Chris, I'm really happy having these discussions with you. And, you know, as I said, when Ambazonia started, when this war started, my first observation was that Ambazonia needed to identify themselves as prescribed by the law of war. Have a uniform, have a leader that we understand that this is Ambazonia, this act is coming from Ambazonia. You say, if we respected that, if that was respected, we will not come today to be saying that this was done by infiltrators, all this. So that is the first thing, and I've been preaching. I'll send you a video where I said in the Mimi first program that the very first thing I see is that we cannot identify who are Ambazonians. I agree with you that not everybody perpetrating illegal acts, or looting, killing, or abduction is Ambazonian. That I agree with you. We have some people who have infiltrated, and it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. So I still agree with you, Mr. Chris, that if La République was managing Cameroon properly, we will not find ourselves where we are. I agree with you. But the only place we have a difference is, me, I think that it is easier to get federalism than getting a secession, because with secession, you fight to get secession.
My question, when you raise federalism, I ask you, for 10 years, October will make it 10 years that this war was declared, and we have been fighting. Cameroon has not as much as said, you know what, maybe let's listen to these federalists. They are Balas and people like you, they are Cremonas, and so on and so forth. Cameroon has not for once said, let's listen to these federalists. Let's run with them. They have not. What informed you people on the federal side to continue to think that if Ambazonians now lay down their arms, Cameroon is going to accept federalism?
Mr. Chris, why don't you think that we can join efforts? We can join efforts.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
Yes, we can join effort and go for what is legally tenable.
No.
For example,
but then that is where we get it. We get it wrong. That is where we get it. That is where we get it wrong. I think.
So for how long? The same question you asked me about what has happened to the federalists, I'll ask too. What has happened to Ambazonian? That for 10 years. For 10 years, Mr. Chris,
yes.
For 10 years, nothing has been done directly to the state.
Well,
all the victims, majority of the victims are instead of the Anglophones.
No, that is not true. Barrister, you know from the beginning of this conflict, La République du Cameroon, remember they called us 2 cubes of sugar that will dissolve in 2 weeks. You remember that? How long have we gone again? We have gone for 1 decade and they still are not able to defeat us. In fact, if you were called and promised federalism today, it would be because Ambazonia kept fighting, not because federalists fought for it. I'm sure you know that. That will be the games.
I do. I will not tell you that I don't. I do.
When you say we can work together, the only working together I can say to you is, you guys federalists, if you guys really believe in it, you are serious about it, call at least a conference, strategize, tell us how many states you believe in, or you want La République to give you. And you see, one of the problems we have is federalists keep talking of La République can give us 10 states, can give us 2 states, can give us, and we begin to ask, what right does La République have to give you your own state? You join La République as separate equal entities. Why are you not deciding for yourself? I expect to see federalists come together in the meeting and say, this is our stance. We want a return to 1961 or nothing. But federalists for 10 years in the escalation of this crisis just keep saying we want federation, we want federation. What is the plan? The plan doesn't exist.
Mr. Chris, I would have been very happy if Ambazonia took 2 or 3 years to have the Ambazonian Republic. I would have been very happy.
Which country? You are an educated, intelligent person. Point me one country that has fought and won independence in 3 years.
Okay. So how many years are we looking into?
We cannot tell. We will fight until we hear. We always say the last man standing, right? Well, anyways, let's get back to Abdul Karim. So, we are going to court in August, and what is the argument?
Well, we have the charge sheet. He'll be arraigned, and if he's arraigned, we'll ask that the proofs be shown to us, because for you to drag somebody to court, it means you have sufficient proofs and evidence against him for offenses which are committed. Another thing that I want to draw your noble attention is that the competence of the court is not determined by the accused person. It depends on the charges that have been brought against you. You understand?
Yes.
So if those charges they are not sufficiently backed, there are no proofs of those charges, of course, you know that Etoudi and the others, they had their decision was reversed by the Supreme Court. So I am waiting as a lawyer that I'll go to court on that day, and the state is going to put in front of me what arguments, why my client is there, and show me the justifications why my clients are there. And until then, I won't say anything till when they tell me with proofs that your client is here because of this or that. But believe me, from the file I've read, we have a good case.
Okay, that is good. Beside Abdul, are you following up any other political cases?
Yes, I was briefed on 2 other cases. You know, I am based in Douala, and most of those cases are in Yaoundé. So I was briefed in 2 other cases. I'm struggling to put them to pass, these two cases to pass on the same day, so that when I leave Douala, I go to Yaoundé, I can handle the 3 cases at the same time.
Oh, okay. Barrister, please stay put out there. When we come back, I will take you and Eric Chinje, who is joining the show, into the subject of the palace coup that almost took place, that almost happened in La République du Cameroon. Please stay put. I'll be right back.
Thank you so much.
The workplace is changing faster than ever before.
Whether you work in healthcare, education, law, content creation, insurance, real estate, human resources, accounting, or nursing, AI is becoming part of your everyday job.
The question isn't whether AI is coming. It's whether you'll be ready. At Certified AI Academy, we teach practical AI skills through live, interactive classes led by experienced instructors. Learn the tools employers are already using today. Invest in yourself. Learn AI now, or someone who already has learned will be used to replace you. Certified AI Academy is now enrolling for our July session. Seating is limited and available on a first-come, first-served basis. Call or text 346-271-0711 today and secure your future. Grab your opportunity now.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for staying put out there. At this moment, I want to take you to a very special investigation, a special subject that has to do with the botched coup in Yaoundé that was meant to announce the appointment of a vice president for Paul Biya. That did not happen. Thanks to CRTV Charles Ngoh, who made phone calls to Emmanuel, Rene Zadi, and to Samuel Ayolo Mvondo, who was by the side of Paul Biya in Geneva and is still there. And so I'd like you to stay put and listen to this very special investigative that I put together here. Stay tuned. A botched coup in Yaoundé, a forged presidential decree with authentic seals, and a deputy director of the civil cabinet questioned 3 times in 6 days. The Baboke affair is not merely a scandal. It is a window into the rotten core of a republic that is devouring itself. And that is the subject of this documentary. On the morning of June 12 this year, a young man named Johann Sitchom drove into the premises of Cameroon Radio Television, the state broadcaster, in a high-security convoy. Johann carried a sealed envelope. Inside the envelope was what appeared to be an urgent presidential decree bearing the official stamp of the presidency and a signature attributed to Paul Biya himself. The document or the envelope, Johann reportedly insisted, required immediate broadcast. The timing could not have been more calculated. President Paul Biya, 92 years old and Cameroon's leader since 1982, was abroad in Geneva, Switzerland, out for rest and medical treatment, accompanied by his wife, Chantal Biya, close political advisors, and several other ministers. Yaoundé was essentially, for all practical purposes, headless, without a leader. CRTV director Charles Ngoh did not bide. He reached for the phone instead, placing a call to Emmanuel René Sadi, who in turn reached out to Samuel Ayolo Mvodo, director of the civil cabinet, who was at Biya's side in Geneva. Ayolo's response was unambiguous. No such decree had been signed by the president. No such appointment had been made. The document was a fabrication, he meant. Johann Sitchom, the bearer of the envelope, was arrested before the day was out, transferred to the Secretary of State for Defense, said, Yaoundé's most feared detention facility for political prisoners. He remains there to date. What has since emerged from investigators and confirmed by sources close to the probe is as chilling as it is revealing. The official seals on the decree are genuine. The signature closely matches that of Paul Biya. Forensic examination has confirmed the technical precision of the forgery. Investigators are now working to establish how the official seals were obtained, where the document was produced, and who orchestrated its delivery. A national gendarmerie search of Sitchom's residence uncovered hard copies of additional alleged presidential decrees. According to gendarmerie sources in Yaoundé, those documents named Oswald Baboke, that is, the deputy director of the civil cabinet, as the vice president of the republic. Two further appointments were learned appeared in the documents. That of Paul Atanyanji, promoted to defense minister, and Paul Elongche, named prime minister. A government in waiting, essentially. A succession packaged into a sealed envelope and delivered to a television studio. Armed with this intelligence, Cameroon Special Criminal Court summoned Baboke on June the 26th for questioning. Follow-up interrogations were scheduled for June 30 and July 1. 3 hearings in 6 days. What transpired at those hearings remains a secret, a top secret. The only thing we know is that the court is pursuing 2 separate board-related inquiries: the forged presidential decree and suspected large-scale illicit activity in Cameroon's gold mining sector. The second investigation against Baboke concerns a staggering discrepancy in Cameroon's gold export figures. According to data from the International Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative, Cameroon officially declared just 22 kilograms of gold exported in 2023. In that same year, nearly 15 tons of gold identified as Cameroonian in origin were recorded on the Dubai gold market. Between 2021 and 2025, Cameroon's estimated gold production reached 44 tons against officially declared exports of approximately 148 kilograms. The arithmetic is damning, ladies and gentlemen. The name of Oswald Baboke, alongside that of his daughter Indira Baboke, has surfaced repeatedly in this investigation. Baboke has denied all allegations. His wife and allies have described the accusations as politically motivated fabrications designed to destroy a loyal servant of the state. But the Special Tribunal, Cameroon Special Tribunal Court for Financial Crimes, is not known for pursuing men, especially powerful men, without cause. Oswald Baboke, born in 1972 in the Mako, in the east region of Cameroon, entered the presidency in the year 2000 as a junior protocol officer. He is no ordinary bureaucrat. Over nearly 2 decades, he climbed the institutional ladder with methodical patience, becoming technical advisor in 2010 before being propelled by presidential decree to deputy director of the civil cabinet in March of 2018, a post that carries ministerial rank. Baboke is also a consecrated, we are told, evangelical pastor in Yaoundé and founder of the Church of the Glory of Christ in the same city, Yaoundé. And he is also the author of multiple books praising Paul Biya's governance record. But what accelerated his rise is what defines his political vulnerability. His extraordinary closeness to First Lady Chantal Biya, and the roots of that closeness go far deeper than Etoudi politics. It begins with their mothers. Chantal Biya's mother and Oswald Baboke's mother were very close friends, we learn. To say that Chantal and Baboke are friends is an understatement. They are more like cousins. And the friendship between Chantal and Baboke's mother in the same town and quarter got Chantal and Baboke almost living together and attending the same schools. They carried a bond inherited from their mothers. In Cameroon's political culture, where blood and origin are everything, this is not a footnote. It is the foundation on which Baboke built his entire career inside the palace. Baboke's hometown of Dimako sits in the same territorial embrace as Chantal Biya's maternal family roots. East region solidarity reinforced by generational ties. He is routinely described in Cameroonian political circles as her right-hand man, Chantal Biya's right-hand man, the man who whispers in the ears of Chantal. He has been appointed to sensitive positions with her backing. He has been involved in events and projects linked to her office, and he is seen as a chief pillar of what analysts call the Chantal Biya's clan. And the clan runs deeper still. The other dominant figure in that network in the clan, Secretary General of the Presidency Ferdinand Ngoh, is bound to Chantal Biya not by friendship but by blood. Ngoh's wife is Chantal Biya's cousin. Her own mother was a sister to Chantal's mother. These are not political alliances of convenience. They are family compacts forged across generations that have been transposed wholesale into the corridors of one of Africa's most opaque presidential palaces, Etoudi. Oswald Baboke whispers into one ear. Ferdinand Ngoh's wife sits at the same table as Chantal at family gatherings. This is the inner circle. Understanding this family architecture, ladies and gentlemen, is essential to understanding the fake degree of June 12. Because sources with knowledge of the plot say it was not simply a bid to install Oswald Baboke as vice president. It was a calculated strike against a rival camp inside Etoudi, specifically against Louis Paul Motaze and Samuel Ayolo Invondo, who represent a separate power axis within the palace. Ayolo, it will be recalled, is the very man who was in Geneva by the side of the president, Paul Biya, when the phone call came from CRTV or René Sadi, the man who killed Samuel Ayolo, the man who killed the plot with a phone call. The irony is almost too perfect, isn't it? The plot sidelined the Ayolo Motaze camp was foiled by Ayolo himself. Persistent and unverifiable rumors in Cameroon media have long alleged a romantic intimacy between Baboke and Chantal Biya. Those rumors remain unsubstantiated. What is not rumored, however, is that a constitutional revision in April 2026 reinstated the office of Vice President of the Republic of Cameroon, and that Oswald Baboke's name featured among the frontrunners for that position, alongside Ferdinand Ngoh and others. The fake decree did not materialize from thin air. It materialized from ambition, from family solidarity, from an internal palace war, and from a calculation that Paul Biya was too far gone to notice. Baboke's camp has not been silent. His allies have pushed back with force, branding the investigations a politically orchestrated campaign of harassment against a faithful servant of the state and of the law. Their defense rests on the pointed observation that Baboke is not the only figure being questioned. He is not the only person who has been summoned. They say other prominent figures, including individuals close to the presidential family, will also be questioned. The implication is deliberate and transparent. If others near the throne or in the presidency will also face scrutiny, then singling out Baboke is persecution dressed as justice. That is what they mean. It is a defense worth noting and worth interrogating. Because the moment Baboke's circle begins pointing fingers at individuals close to the presidential family, they are, whether they intend to or not, pointing in the direction of the very network they inhabit. And there is a quieter signal to watch. Whether this investigation, open on the personal orders of Paul Biya himself, quietly runs out of steam. Whether the summonses become fewer. Whether the fires go away or go cold. In Cameroonian political history, Investigations that treating the wrong people have a tendency to die exactly that kind of natural death. If that happens here, and there are already whispers that it might, it will be the most eloquent testimony yet to who truly holds power in the palace on the hill. And now, ladies and gentlemen, what does all this really mean? What does it mean to the Cameroonian? Let me speak plainly here, because Cameroon deserves plain speaking. What happened on June 12, 2026 in the compound of CRTV was not a prank. It was not the act of a lone fanatic clutching a divine vision. It was an attempted coup, an envelope coup, carefully calculated and nearly executed with clinical precision. A forged decree bearing genuine presidential seals was driven in convoy to the national broadcaster to be read on air. Paul Biya was conveniently thousands of miles away, sedated by Geneva's comfort. His inner circle was with him. The palace was exposed. Think about what that announcement, ladies and gentlemen, would have done. In the seconds after a CRTV anchor would have read that decree on national television, Cameroon would have exhaled a collective gasp. And then what? The logic of the plot was not complicated. Announce the appointment. Create the fact on the ground. Hope that the speed of the announcement outpaces the denier. And if Paul Biya, frail and absent, were to protest too loudly, or if his proximity to death was closer than even his handlers admitted, well, then the new vice president would simply be waiting. Baboke would simply be waiting. Do not be fooled by the messiness of the execution. The ambition behind it was surgical. Now look at the name on the decree. Oswald Baboke, Deputy Director of the Civil Cabinet, a pastor, an author, a trusted aide to the leader, the man who whispers, a man who sat in the same classroom as Chantal Biya, a man whose bond with the First Lady is not merely political but generational, woven from childhood friendships in a quarter in the East, from school gates and shared history, from the kind of loyalty that does not require explanation because it precedes memory itself. Is it credible? Seriously. Is any reasonable person expected to believe that a man this embedded in Chantal Biya's world could have conceived and executed this operation without her knowledge, without her blessing, without perhaps her fingerprints on that envelope? And Ferdinand Ngoh, let us not pretend he is a bystander either. His wife, Ferdinand Ngoh's wife, is Chantal Biya's cousin. Her mother was a sister of Chantal Biya. Her mother was the sister of Chantal Biya's mother. These three, Chantal, Baboke, Ngoh, and not merely political, they are not merely political allies, they are family. They share tables, share secrets, share the instinct of blood over institution. The idea that a plot of this magnitude hatched within the walls of Etoudi and directed against the rival Motaze Ayolo Kam could have been executed without the knowledge of both Chantal and Ngoh is a fairy tale for the naive. This was a clan operation, a coup aimed at entrenching that clan's grip on the succession before the old man in Geneva takes his last breath. Because the geography of power in Yaoundé is not abstract. The Motaze Ayolo axis represents one vision of post-Paul Biya's continuity. The Chantal Baboke Ngoh triangle represents another. And on June 12, one side decided it was tired of waiting. It packaged the succession into a sealed envelope, drove it to CRTV, and dared the country to simply accept it. This is not the work of amateurs. This is the work of people who know exactly where the seals are kept, because they have been keeping it. And that brings me to the most devastating question of all. Where is Paul Biya in this story? He is resting, we are told. He has been resting, it seems, for years from his country, from the reality that his palace is a battlefield. The man who has governed Cameroon since 1982, through famine and oil booms, an armed conflict, and economic stagnation, is now a signature on a forged document, a name invoked by coup plotters who apparently believe with reasonable justification that he is no longer capable of noticing. When men in your house forge your seal to install a vice president while you sleep in Switzerland, the question of who is truly governing Cameroon answers itself. It does. And let us not pretend this is about Baboke alone. Baboke is a symptom. The disease is a total collapse of institutional order around a president whose physical and cognitive decline are a problem. Because men do not gamble this recklessly, forging presidential decrees, driving them in convoy to national television. It only happens when they are certain, deeply certain, that the man they are forging is no longer able to fight back. And now the Ngoh story. That is a separate and parallel obscenity. 15 tons of Cameroonian gold recorded in Dubai, while only 22 kilograms appear in official export declarations. Think about that. Think about the level of decay. Nearly half a century of combined production vanished just like that. And the name Baboke appears in that fight too, including Chantal Biya, alongside the daughter of Baboke's. This is not misfortune. This is architecture. A system of extraction built in the shadow of power, protected by proximity to the throne. Cameroon is not merely facing a scandal, it is facing the bill for decades of governance by corruption, succession by intrigue, and leadership by absence. The envelope delivered to CRTV on June 12 was not just a forged decree, it was a mirror. And what Cameroonians saw in that mirror, an empty presidency, a palace at war with itself, a first lady whose allies dare to crown themselves, should terrify every citizen who still believes that country has a future worth fighting for. The botched coup did not fail because Cameroon's institutions are strong or working. It failed because Charles Ngoh picked up the phone. It failed because Samuel Mvondo Ayolo in Geneva said no. It failed by a threat. And threats, as history has shown, do not hold forever. Watch now. What happens to this investigation? Paul Biya ordered it open. But Paul Biya is in Geneva. And those who manage his name, his seal, and his signature are the very people under suspicion. Baboke's allies are already signaling the terms of the counter-offensive. This is a political witch hunting. Others will be summoned to. Wait and see, they say. In Cameroonian history, that language has a familiar cadence. It is the sound an investigation makes just before it quietly disappears. If these files go cold, if the summonses stop, if the forensic examination of that decree goes nowhere, you will have your answer about who truly governs or runs Cameroon. And it will not be the man resting in Switzerland.
The workplace is changing faster than ever before.
Whether you work in healthcare, education, law, content creation, insurance, real estate, human resources, accounting, or nursing, AI is becoming part of your everyday job.
The question isn't whether AI is coming. It's whether you'll be ready. At Certified AI Academy, we teach practical AI skills through live, interactive classes led by experienced instructors. Learn the tools employers are already using today. Invest in yourself. Learn AI now, or someone who already has learned will be used to replace you. Certified AI Academy is now enrolling for our July session. Seating is limited and available on a first-come, first-served basis. Call or text 346-271-0711 today and secure your future. Grab your opportunity now. The workplace is changing faster than ever before.
Whether you work in healthcare, education, law, content creation, insurance, real estate, human resources, accounting, or nursing, AI is becoming part of your everyday job.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for staying put there. And that is a very special documentary that I put together on this subject of the coup in Yaoundé, behind whose names are Chantal Biya and the cousin, calling the cousin, Oswald Baboke. I am being joined by Eric Chinje. Eric Chinje, as you all know, used to be the editor of CRTV at a point in time, and he will tell us the protocol in handling such letters as brought to CRTV by Johann, Sitchom. Eric, it's a great pleasure to have you back, sir.
Well, thank you very much, Chris. I've been involved in some visual gymnastics here that would be hard to explain. But
I'm sorry for keeping you waiting so long.
But it was helpful in one sense, because had I known, I would have been fully involved in one of the meetings, my Project C meeting, and then I have this other, but I've learned how to multitask, so we're fine. I'm very happy to be here.
Well, let's delve into the story here. Again, you are an expert as far as CRTV is concerned. So this letter is taken to CRTV in a presidential convoy by a young man with the name Johann Sitchom. He gets to CRTV, delivers the letter, and of course, the urgency is this is a presidential decree that has to be taken on air immediately. Tell us, when you were at CRTV and you received announcements from the presidency, What was the protocol? How was it handled?
Well, first of all, I left CRTV, 35 years at least ago. And a lot has changed. When I left, there was only one broadcaster, a national broadcaster. Now they have to compete for space. So their importance has diminished, of course, over time. But with regards to governance in Cameroon, CRTV continues to play a central role, and it's one that we must be cognizant of. This decree, this fake, quote unquote, fake decree, respected all the protocols. So, in effect, it was not a fake decree. It was essentially power play. It was a genuine document that in other circumstances would have established the order of the day in Cameroon. So let's get away from this attempt to confuse the minds of Cameroonians. It was a genuine document that, of course, is tantamount to a coup attempt, because one of the groups fighting for power in Cameroon, and there are at least 3, there may be 4, tried to outsmart the others. That's exactly what happened. One group, using all the all the access it has to the instruments of power in the country, which is what a coup d'etat usually is. The military folks use a gun to take over to take access, have access to the levers of power. In this case, they didn't need guns. They just needed to have access to the signatures, and they did. So it was a genuine document in that sense. And it's important to point this out, Chris. Why? Because what stops, if we buy into the notion of a fake decree, what stops in the next round, and there will be a next round, because either Mr. Biya goes away and a new government has to be announced, and you name it. So in the next round, suppose those who are not in that decree decide that they're not going to move because it is fake. We have fundamentally weakened an important pillar of governance in Cameroon. That is what has happened here. It's not about all, and I think you've done a really excellent job in putting out the what is at stake here and what's at play. We have 3 very powerful groups that have access to the instruments of power. We have what it's called the Demaco power structure. Demaco. This is a small village in the East Province, in the eastern region of Cameroon, and they're led by Chantal Biya and Baboke. So that's one, and this is called the Demaco group. And then we've got the second people with access to power that constitute what's called the Nanga Eboko group. Nanga Eboko, led by Ngoh. So we've got the Demaco group led by Baboke, we've got the Nanga Eboko group led by Ngoh, and now we have the Ekang Beti led by Mr. Mutaze and Ayolo and to some extent Frank Biya. That is it. That's how they've divvied up authority in the country. And the question now is, who's going to win? Who's going to use that access to power to confirm the capture of power in Cameroon? That's the question we all now have to answer.
Right.
There are 2 things we need to look at as we look at these things. 2 things, Chris. Power, political power, and money. Everything else aligns behind those 2 forces. And when we look at Cameroon today, when you think you're talking about gold, that is just part of the game. You've not talked about Cameroon's second source of, or third source of wealth, our forests. We've not talked about all the other sources of wealth, iron ore and our coffee, our bananas and timber and you name it. No, so if I were to structure the problem in the country now, I'll look at the three blocks of power first. I'll look at what access they have to power on the one hand, money on the other. And when I say power, it also means, because if you look at where each one draws their power from, the DeMarco group, they draw their power through through Madame Biya, because she's the only one who has full access to the husband. But then you look at the Nangai Boko group with Ngoh, they have access to the army. He has control over the army. And then, of course, the Ekang Bulu group, which has access to a lot of the money. So not so much power, but money. This is how it's, what has happened in the country is Cameroon has either been destroyed permanently, or we're in a position where negotiations have to take place between the various forces. And at some point, hopefully, the forces of political instruments that are detained in part by these parties, the CPDM, DPC, the SDF, the MRC, they too, at some point, they may realize it is in their interest to play up that power. It's not the case right now. We've talked about what is most obvious, the DeMarco, the Nangai Boko, and the Ekang power. But if the rest of the country plays the game well, we may sideline these people, and the nature of the political game in Cameroon will change. Anyway, we'll get to that, Chris. I think I've been talking too much.
No, that is okay. You laid it apparently what it is there. Now, you look at these two faces on your screen, that is Chantal Biya and Baboke. The question, Eric, is, and you put it rightly, I don't understand how anybody can say that Baboke did this single-handedly because of the links between them. So, if an investigation is being carried on, how do you put out Chantal Biya out of this Coup thing?
Nobody would be stupid enough to do that, Chris. Let me put it this way. We've identified the three sources of real political power in Cameroon today. We know them. But there's a fourth that has not made its voice heard. And that's what I was referring to. We have, without doubt, the wing of authority that's controlled by Chantal, and that's the DeMarco group. And you mentioned it. Chantal and the First Lady, Chantal Biya, and Baboke are from DeMarco.
And Ngo's wife is from DeMarco. They grew up together.
So, Ngoh is actually Nangai Boko, kind of closer to the center than the Eastern Province. But these are the three that are currently, battling for positioning. The three groups are battling as we speak. But there's that fourth group that has not come into play yet. And it's a mixed group within which you have the army, and you cannot discount the army, within which you have existing political parties who are seeing the country crumbling, and within it, an emerging an increasingly powerful civil society. They constitute that fourth wing that will have to express itself, emerge in the post-Biya battle. That battle is going to happen in the coming weeks. Mr. Biya doesn't have much time. I mean, he's totally, as a matter of fact, he's very much out of the picture. In spite of everything anybody is trying to say, Mr. Biya is very much out of the picture. But as long as the others can use his name, they will. They will.
What do you make of the fact that this information was intercepted by a party from the other camp, that is somewhere Europe?
You know, again, this was a coup d'etat because it was going to happen behind the backs of the president. And they waited for the president to leave the country. Then, you know, they organized, they orchestrated this for him to be out of the country. And then, as soon as he was out of the country, you know, Mr. Biya's voice was no longer the voice of power. As soon as he was out of the country, then, you know, they initiated this. And that's why it's a coup d'etat. It was, for all intents and purposes, going to happen after Mr. Biya was out of the country, not when he's in the country. Of course, you know, he ends up finding out. He's, you know, and the people around him, Ayolo and the rest of them, they know exactly when to speak to him.
Absolutely.
And get his voice. And obviously they did. And he was very angry about it and insisted that Baboke be called in. But again, Mr. Biya has no powers.
Absolutely. Let me get to Barrister Lehman here. Barrister Lehman, I don't know how this was going to unfold if the announcement had actually been made, because we don't know how Biya would have received it. That is, if he still have any cognitive abilities. So how was the transition going? I mean, how was, with Ayolo sitting by the side of Paul Biya, how was it going to be possible that Biya will not ask, who signed it? I didn't sign a decree. How was that transition going to be handled? I mean, this is a rhetorical question because we are not there, but please attempt an answer.
Good evening to my senior brother, Mr. Eric Chinje. I cannot comment without Yes. I want to say that honestly, if that thing was actually read out, we would have had kind of chaos because the other groups would not have taken it easy. I'm very sure that the army would have gone out, and today we have kind of unrest in Cameroon. So Eric Chinje has given you the true picture of what is happening in Cameroon, and our president for now is very, very helpless and cannot contain those three factions. Whatever the case, I think Mr. Biya did not take time to prepare a smooth succession. And if we are not careful, because I don't see those three camps coming together to discuss anything, I don't really see that. And so we might be having a kind of turmoil, after political turmoil or whatever, or upheavals in Cameroon after Biya, because the stage is already set for that. When you see people take time to orchestrate such a coup d'etat, you know that their taste for power is so huge, and it is actually a problem to come to our country. Because of course, if it was ready, it means that there is a prime minister who has to debunk, who will be able to debunk that. It is a president who should come out to do the disclaimer. Because if the other factions come to disclaim, the other party will say, no, but the president has said nothing. And the question then is, is a president in the capacity to disclaim that if this thing was in favor of the person the wife supports? So I think that the situation is very delicate and very complex, that we have said before that we need divine intervention to rescue this country.
Do you see Chantal Biya being interrogated by the Special Criminal Tribunal as they are doing with Baboke? Because we have learned June 26, July 30th, no, June 26th, June 30th, July 1st. He had to report for inquiries at the special criminal tribunal in Yaounde. Do you think that can extend to Chantal?
I'll tell you honestly that that's impossible. Impossible because our judicial system is not independent. It cannot happen. We should not have a false expectation. It cannot happen.
If it is impossible for Chantal Biya to be summoned, and Baboke is essentially the man who whispers to Chantal Biya, do you see that case then going anywhere?
Well, as a lawyer, our duties are the way we operate is very different from you journalists. Journalists, you look for the information, you bring to light those information, you analyze those information. But me as a lawyer, I look at the proofs. So I can really not say much on who committed the offense or who attempted to do what happened until such a time.
We are looking at precedents in the country where the powerful go free and the powerless face the law.
I want to think that if actually this guy is involved, and Chantal Biya is his person, they will stop that investigation. Believe me. Yes, they'll try to discontinue that investigation. And for now, I don't see the magistrate who is courageous enough to continue such an investigation. I don't see. It's unfortunate, but it is the truth.
Chris, I don't know if I can step in
yes.
here, but Liman is right. This whole thing has to play out. The power game has to play out, and it's the World Cup of Cameroon's political gamesmanship. It will play out. Somebody may win. That's the favorable scenario would be somebody wins and succeeds in imposing the authority. But what I think is more likely is nobody wins, there's chaos, and the army might step in.
Yes. Yes.
Or, and I mentioned this deliberately, that civil society, which would rope in the political parties. And so this is my direct appeal to the likes of, Kanto, Joshua O.C., Libby, and the rest of them, for them to come together and make a statement. But you know why they cannot? Because of Cameroon's original sin. The fundamental problem of greed.
Greed.
And greed. That's what's at the heart of the Cameroon, of the systems to be put in place. That's what's at the heart of it. And because of greed, my young brother Joshua O.C. and my young brother Libby and my friend Kanto, none of them will want to come together. If they had been able to come together, they would have come and said, "Oh, we had an election and Chiroma won." I mean, I'm not here to plead for Chiroma, but I'm here to plead for the truth. That's what's going to save Cameroon. Chiroma won the elections. Let him have it. And if they cannot give it to him, okay, they should come together and demand a new dispensation for that country. I'll use this opportunity again to say that in that regard, the civil society group that I work with, Project Cameroon, is proposing a constitution to Cameroonians. And we're asking Cameroonians to answer a series of questions, a very simple questionnaire. If you haven't answered it, please find it, answer it. Because out of that, we're going to produce a document that will show Cameroonians, every Cameroonian, Ambazonians, I don't know what you call those of the north, everybody. We are reaching out to 100,000 Cameroonians to tell us what they want to see within the framework of national unity, whether they want to, and how the country will be governed. decentralization, federal states, you name it. It might resolve. We have to figure out how we resolve the problems of that nation, of that geographical space we call Cameroon. If we don't, it will blow up in our faces. And all of us will have to answer for it to our children and our children's children. It's not working. I can guarantee you today, as we sit, as we speak here, there's no solution in the horizon. There's none.
Oh yes.
There's none.
Yes. And I want to add,
Mr. Chris, people, the lawyers, you have to rise and say and put out the call. You either do that or you wait for us to come up with that constitution which we'll propose to everybody.
Mr. Chris and Mr. Eric Chinje, you know, the unfortunate thing we have now in this country is that even the military that you think is united is actually divided. That is
absolutely.
Paul Biya had made it a way that the military, there is no general who can boast of having a good number of military people under him. No. If you look at the setup, you have from gendarmes, you have brigades, you have brigades. From brigades, you go to company, you go to groupement, you go to legion, you go to region. You see, the thing has been divided in a way that nobody has power. Then inside the army again, you have the same tribal war. You see that this ethnic group has taken. So, to be very honest with you, the problem back home is very, very critical. Extremely critical that if we are not careful, Cameroon might not avoid a civil war.
Yes.
And if
I
we
hope
have
it doesn't get to.
Yes, I pray we don't, because when we have it, it's going to take a very, very long time. A very long time for Cameroon to stabilize. Because the North, they have grievances. Yes, the North, they have grievances. Yeah. The South, they have their grievances. The East, they have their grievances. The military, indeed, if something is not done, I was talking to one of the channels the other day, and I said that I actually dove my hat to Brother Eric Chinje for the effort he's making. He has been very consistent in what you're doing. If there's any way I can be of help, I will not hesitate. We need people like you. We need people who are committed like you to propose something. Our political leaders have all failed us. Greed. The word is greed. You see, and so I said, we need God's intervention. We need God's intervention in Cameroon. Because if God is not present, we're going to have a serious problem in this country.
So if
you may know that
the military cannot come together. The military cannot come together to resolve a problem in Cameroon. When you talk to some of the military people, they'll tell you that, me, I support that what the people are doing. But you see, if I dare say that I support this person will come, and then the whole place, you see, it is terrible. It is terrible.
Yeah.
It is terrible.
If the military should take over, do you see them handing it anytime soon to anybody? And do you even see them following a constitutional means to hand over power? Because they are looking at Burkina Faso, they are looking at Mali, they are looking at Guinea and the rest. What would be the motivation for a military to hand over to the civilian administration?
What you should even know is that if the military has to take power, it is mostly the Wondos, the Beti, and because the majority of those top military officers. So you see that still there is a problem. Will these other ethnic groups accept that these people should take power after having power? So it is complicated. It is. The people from the North, they believe that power should return to them. We in the South, we think that we should have power too. And then indeed everybody wants the power, and we have a big problem. The best thing that would have resolved the problem in Cameroon is good governance, democracy, and that our institutions were credible enough to read out the results as they were obtained from the ballot. If that was done, there will be a smooth transition. Indeed, power will move smoothly into the hands of another person. But we miss it all. And these institutions are as guilty as any other person, because if Elekam stood for the truth, if the constitutional the
Constitutional Council
The
council
Constitutional
stood for
Court.
the truth,
The council.
yes,
sorry.
court. The council, if they accepted that matters brought in front before them they could hear in the substantive matter, but they said no, we just deliberate on results that were sent to us. You see, so we missed that opportunity in this country to have a smooth change of power, and then we find ourselves where we are today. It is extremely dangerous. It is extremely
important.
dangerous.
If I may ask
Eric,
Eric, what do you think is going on now in the minds of leaders in the other camp? I'm talking of the Ayolos, the Motazes, and so on.
No, as long as we focus on that group, we'll be going around in circles and nothing is going to come out of it. Ayolo is never going to sit back. Ayolo, and when you say Ayolo, you're talking about Motaze, you're talking about Frank Biya, and ultimately you're talking about the Ekangbulu group. If you stay with those, there's no way the other groups are going to let them dominate, take over real power in the country, because inevitably members of each group, the lead people in each group, will end up in jail. They have no intention of ending up in jail. They have no such intention. So this absolutely, I don't see a compromise, and we're not going to have them appoint another 65-member government so that everybody can have their share. Cameroon needs to advance. We need to create. We need to get back to generating investments in our economy, to creating jobs in our economy, to rebuilding industry. We destroyed it. We have to get back to exploiting our minerals for the benefit of citizens. These things have to be done. And it's not going to be done by these folks. They have no such intention. As I say, they have two things that drive them: power on the one hand, money on the other. The money is coming from the natural resources. They have enough money to last, to drink enough champagne and hire enough planes and celebrate enough parties in Geneva or in the plain by Chantal and her crowd. That's the only thing they really understand. And that's the only thing they really care about. They don't care about schools and hospitals and roads or transforming our natural agricultural produce. They don't care about that. That's not a preoccupation for them. They're leaving Mutaze to go around the world begging. And Mutaze knows that the world is not ready to give Cameroon anything, substantially, except at extremely high interest rates. Because you cannot take a country to jail, but you can imprison a country by putting it in debt. And when the time comes, when you're indebted, and if you don't pay, they go to the IMF. And if the IMF tells you, you've got to pay, and if you don't, you have no more access. So, it's the most insidious things that these fellows are doing. They're indebting the country and making it almost impossible for the next set of leaders to lead Cameroon out of the mess they've put it in. But, we know the problems. What we don't know is, how did we get to this? How did we get to this point? I need a full session with you, Chris, to give you my take on this. But I want to tell you this. Mr. Biya stopped governing Cameroon in 1985. Think about that. 1985. 1985.
Okay.
That is over something like 40 years ago. He literally stopped governing the country. He came to the conclusion in 1985, and I'm saying this with a full understanding of what I'm saying. I'll go into the depth of it. I've written, as a matter of fact, I wrote to the president. I wrote a letter which he may not have received, because I told what's his name, Ayolo, to make sure to give it to him. Mr. Ayolo, if he's listening, he knows this is true, a few weeks ago. And I brought out some of the the arguments that, or the case for why we are where we are. And I was pleading in my letter to the president to please, if there's one more thing he can do, is to wake up and clean the place before he goes. Otherwise, he'll be, and it's a very interesting letter that I wrote to Mr. Biya.
How long ago was that?
About a month ago.
Okay.
I recognize what he tried to do as president, but I also point to the fundamental, to the problem, to the Biya problem, to the heart of the Biya problem, which the late Jean Biya knew, understood, and told him. And he wasn't happy about it. You know when she told him?
No.
In 1991. In 1991, she said, look, it's enough. Get somebody who can run this country. You're not up to the task. Let us change the constitution and create an honorary presidency. Anybody who is around them, who doesn't know the story, doesn't know the country. And those who do will tell you what I'm saying is the absolute truth. The wife told him, said no. And the fact that he didn't, that's when Mr. Biya should have been preparing to hand over real power in Cameroon, and he didn't. Why? The greed. That's why I talk about the original sin of the Biya years is greed. The man, he had no plans to govern this country, to manage. Governance is managing the economy, the commonwealth. That's what governance is. And he had no plans to do that. But he had every plan to continue to stay in power. And his closest friend told me, and it's in my letter to him, his closest friend told me that if you don't do anything, this guy will be in power for life. And at the time, in 1997, when he told me this,
but
recalling everything else.
Do you really think Biya is still in power on his own volition? Don't you think that it is a camp?
Well, but he saw himself slide into the state in which he is now. And even then, he could still have arranged to hand over power. He didn't. He knew the day he authorized Ngoh to have this power of signature, which most Secretaries General had, but under a president who is in control. But the day Mr. Biya decided to make it public, then Ngoh would have a power that was with the Secretaries General of the presidency, the various Secretaries General. The day Mr. Biya made it public, he knew that he was out of it. He knew that he was losing it. That's when he could have decided on what trajectory the future would have in Cameroon. He didn't. So anyway, I think I've taken you out of the main line of the discussion we're supposed to have. But it is important.
Question.
The reason I wanted to say is to say that it's important that Cameroonians dig into this history, understand it, and before the end of this year, I hope we'll take things into our hands, all of us, and say enough is enough. Let's rethink the direction of the country.
Last question to both of you before I open the phones briefly. They will be returning from Geneva eventually. Probably in the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe another 1 month, they will be back. And when they are back, don't you see an immediate announcement emerging that essentially appoints the next, the vice president and the next president, just to squash this confusion of the moment?
Well, personally, I
allow you to step.
Okay.
Lehman, go on.
Okay.
Lehman, go on.
Yes, I have stopped expecting anything from the head of state, honestly, because when you think that he's going to react, he doesn't. See, he promised to appoint the new members of government. He hurriedly amend the constitution to bring in a vice president, but nothing has been done up to now. You see,
But then, given the situation and all the rumors out there, don't you think they will want to douse that by immediately coming out and saying the president has signed a presidential decree appointing so and so? I mean, the moment he gets back into the country, don't you see that happening?
Well, I've expected him to act on so many occasions that I don't want to put myself in a position of expectation. I don't want to put myself in that position. But of recent, what I've been doing is that I'm calling on magistrates and the military. I've been calling on them that we should be patriotic. Magistrates receive those people who are sent for trial in front of them. And so if they start rendering judgment by the law and their consciences, I think that will solve a problem that Cameroonians can actually go out and revindicate to have their rights respected. That is the first. The second is I've pleaded to the military that they should respect the fundamental rights of the citizen, which is that of expressing and manifesting peaceful manifestation without being harassed or arrested by the military. If those two units, that's the magistrates and the military, they act as true patriots, I think Cameroon, we can move forward. I honestly am not expecting
you have any doubt they don't know that?
They know, but we need to remind them. We need to remind them. It is our duty to remind them because they have a very important role to play. They have been the persons protecting the head of state. To be very honest with you, these two institutions, the magistracy and the army, have been the two persons protecting the head of state. So they should be conscious enough to see that it is bad for them to intervene. I don't want to expect anything from the president because if he has not been able to appoint a vice president up to this day, is because he too is having some challenges.
No, it's because he too is not. He's not even. He doesn't know where he is. That is the point. Eric, please.
I said he should have some challenges. He should have some challenges. So my brother Eric can conclude on that.
You will get the wrong answer.
Are you getting me?
Yeah.
Can you get?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. We can hear
Oh,
you.
okay.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah.
Yes, I can hear you.
So I'm saying that if you ask the wrong questions, you'll get the wrong answers. So the important thing is to figure out what answers you want. The Cameroon is like a chess game now, where everybody can play checkmate on the other. You know, on a chessboard, you have castles, you have knights, you have, all these various players. Everybody's pulling the strings in the direction that best allows them to enforce their authority. I believe that we are going to we're going to figure out how to correct the ills of our society in the coming weeks. I would say in the coming months at the very most. And we're going to have to do it and save the country, or we're going to see a country with so much promise collapse on Mondovision, in front of the rest of the world. So the question is, how do we save Cameroon from this demise that seems to be playing out in front of all of us? I think that let's not close our eyes to the fact that Mr. Biya is no longer there. It doesn't matter what anybody says. The man is out of it. When they come back from this place, they'll be working as we speak. They're working to come out with something that's acceptable to the various parties. So they're looking at, if we appoint Paul Biya Prime Minister, is John Gute capable of disrupting the process? And if the answer is no, then that settles the issue of the prime minister. If the answer is yes, they're back to the drawing board. So there's a lot of give and take going on right now
how can when you talk about disrupting the prime minister Ngoh disrupting the president, how can you do that? What are you looking at?
If there are 3, maybe 4 levers of power in the country now. If any one of them appoints a prime minister, and I'm taking the case of Elumche, for example, if Paul becomes prime minister and John Gute says, I'm not leaving office, there's nothing the new prime minister will be able to do, because he has his own, he has his own people.
But Ngoh cannot say that on his own, right? He must be backed by essentially by the military.
Every single one of them is backed by a certain force.
Yeah.
Within the Cameroonian society, So what's his name? Victor Mengot has been mentioned. Paul Elum has been mentioned. John Gute is still in power. What's his name? Young Philomen, if they eventually realize that, let's go for a compromise, vice president, and if it's Young Philomen, none of the Anglophones I've mentioned will become prime minister. These are the raw facts of the situation in the country today. So they might use the vice presidential position. And I was talking to some guys who are in power in Cameroon, and they were telling me, the Young may be the most acceptable to the Ekambeti group as vice president. So, and then if they do that, then that settles the Anglophone problem, and they start looking for somebody else as prime minister. Look, as Met Limen was saying, that this country is at the edge of a precipice. It can blow up. And those of us who want to save Cameroon, the 3 of us here, and the millions of others who stand, who share our position, we've got to have our voices heard, or we'll lose a country. And Chris, I know that you're leaning in one way, but we all want that geographical space to be protected, whether we like it or not, because our families, our friends, our sisters and brothers, they all belong within that space. And there's nothing we can do. We have to do it right, or we get it totally wrong. And Nigeria, we should just hand over the country to Nigerians, I don't know, because,
Do you see Issa Chiroma featuring anywhere here in the case of this confusion in the country?
Yeah.
And none of those camps is interested in him, right?
Well, no, totally wrong. Again, wrong answer, wrong question, wrong answer. Issa Chiroma is one of the smartest politicians I've met. And I feel sorry for him because he's in a very difficult situation. Issa Chiroma is in a very difficult situation. There are people who want to support him, but they are afraid. The 4 heads of states, or 5, who are protecting him, who are providing the protection he has now. It's not only one country. The Gambia cannot determine what happens to Issa Chiroma tomorrow. And there are a number of others. There's Nigeria, there's Ghana, there's Cote d'Ivoire, and there's Senegal. And I think, you can include 1 or 2 others here or there, Benin Republic and Sierra Leone. And Liberia, sorry. So these Issa Chiroma, what's happening, and that's why I mentioned it, the Pope, and I don't know whether I should be saying this, but the Pope has expressed a strong view on what's happening in Cameroon. And I think we will be hearing from him, or from that wing of power in Cameroon, because give it to them. The Catholic Church continues to be an important player in the politics of Cameroon. They're an important player. So we will see in the coming weeks, I think, maybe as early as next week, there'll be some noise coming from that from that area, and that may ultimately be what saves the country. Not that the Pope will impose Issa Chiroma. No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that there's a certain power game that's being played right now, and Issa Chiroma is very much in that game.
I want to.
The outcome will be hard to say, but we cannot dismiss it.
Yes, I agree with you honestly on that, because Issa Chiroma, if we want to look at the desire, the wish of the people, I think Issa Chiroma can play down Cameroonians. He can be a candidate that will reunify this country. I agree with you completely. And so if Paul Biya is very smart and truly he wants to do something, bring him in. And we're going to have some peace. And yes, because to be very honest with you, majority of Cameroonians hold that they voted for him and he was supposed to be the president.
Absolutely.
Yes.
If the truth is going to save us, the truth is that Chiroma won the election. Whether you like it or not, that is the truth.
Yes.
So and I guess that's why the Pope is leaning into this and trying to see how it can help the country.
I think he can play a very measured role. He can play a very measured role. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Gentlemen, it was a great pleasure having you on the set here, and I will be doing a special presentation again, just bordered around the gold fraud or corruption issue, and I will probably bring you both back on that subject. But thank you very much for being on the show tonight. You have a great night, sirs.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Oh,
it was a pleasure, Chris.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay,
I'll be in touch with you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was it for tonight. We're going to call it a night here, but before I go, I will be coming back on Thursday with another special presentation. So please, may you have a great night. Looking forward to seeing you again. Good night.